good, y'all? We back. Thank y'all for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. In this video, I want to talk about the food reviewer Keith Lee and Chad Ochocinco Chad Johnson. Now, most of us know that we're aware that Ocho made a mistake. He voiced his opinion and his thoughts about Keith Lee without really knowing who he is and knowing his background, his pedigree, his credentials. And from Ocho's lens and his perspective, he thought that Keith Lee was just trying to tear down a black business, and he thought that he should have at least been respectful of a particular black business, and he should have not put that kind of information out there, because Ocho felt like Keith Lee's negative review of that particular restaurant or some restaurants in Atlanta would be hurting them, and it could hurt their business. But little did he know, Keith Lee is just a very honest, upfront person. Most of his reviews of food places are mostly positive, but the best food reviewer is someone who is open and honest and not just always trying to act like everything he or she tries is delicious, because everything ain't delicious, and it doesn't mean that every business's service is perfect. Sometimes you can have good food but poor service. But when you have poor service, you have a long wait. People are waiting in a long line for hours, and then they get the food. They finally get their food, and it tastes like trash. They have a right to express that, and they have a right to tell their subscribers, the people that view their video, hey, this is my experience at this such and such place, and this is my opinion on it. Keith Lee, he's smart. He doesn't say, hey, don't go there. He always will still encourage people to say, I encourage you, this is just my opinion, but I encourage you to still check this place out, be your own judge, but this was just my personal experience. That is his right to give his perspective and his opinion about someone's quality of service and quality of food. Now, with that being said, a lot of Keith Lee's fans and followers and supporters, some of them are going a little overboard. Some people be too in their feelings that they don't realize how they could be blowing something way out of proportion and making something bigger than it should be. You have to respect Chad Ochocinco as well. Chad Johnson, you got to respect him. Why? Because after his daughter corrected him and enlightened him about Keith Lee, he was a man. He manned up, and he apologized, and he corrected himself. He stood corrected, and he realized that, okay, I was wrong. I jumped the gun. I thought this guy was just attacking black businesses, but I don't know much about this guy, and he was just being honest, and he's a real legit food reviewer. So some of y'all are going a little overboard, and y'all too in y'all feelings, and y'all are like trying to drag Ochocinco now. Like, I saw a couple of comments where it's like, damn, y'all trying to cancel him because he disagreed, or he had some negative comments about Keith Lee. Relax. Some people can get it wrong. Some people jump to conclusions. Some people can misinterpret what someone says. Some people can mistake someone's motives for why they would do something or say something. And that was simply the case with Ocho. But at least he was man enough to stand corrected, and he was man enough to apologize and say he was wrong. And I can appreciate and respect the fact that he acknowledged that his daughter corrected him. But hey, move on. Stop dwelling on it and trying to make it something bigger and trying to create extra content out of it to try to like destroy the reputation of Chad Johnson. There's plenty of people in this world that have done way worse stuff. Now, if y'all want to drag him for the mistake he made in the past, which I'm not going to dare drag him about it, it's in the past. But the mistake he made when he was with his fiance, that's one thing. But to go overboard and try to like almost go to the extreme as to try to like cancel Chad Ochocinco or take away the views and the following of his platforms that he's on, all because y'all don't like the fact that Chad Ochocinco didn't agree with Keith Lee, or because he had some negative words for Keith Lee. Y'all gotta chill out. Stay in y'all's lane, man. But respect to Keith Lee. He had a very brilliant response to Chad Johnson, who was incorrect on what he said and what he expressed about Keith Lee. But I understand where he went wrong. I understand what Chad Johnson was trying to do. He was trying to speak up on behalf of black businesses and try to make sure that black people aren't tearing down black businesses. But he mistakenly assumed that Keith Lee was on a tearing down black business spree. But thanks to his daughter, she corrected him and said, Dad, that is not Keith Lee. He's an honest, good man. He's a family man. He has helped raise a lot of money for black businesses and help people retire and all that stuff. So people make mistakes. But y'all fanboys and all you trolls and you weirdos out there, y'all need to chill out with all of the trolling and the disrespect of Chad Johnson. All because y'all in y'all feelings because Keith Lee was attacked by Chad Johnson verbally. Or because Chad Johnson spoke out about Keith Lee on a public platform where there could be thousands or even millions of people viewing it. But kudos to Chad Johnson for manning up and correcting himself and acknowledging that he was wrong and that he had got it wrong. And you guys need to just carry on with y'all's life. Leave Chad Johnson alone. Chad Johnson has no beef with Keith Lee at this point now. He has nothing else to say about him. He didn't know who the heck Keith Lee was prior to him. I mean, Chad Johnson is way more famous than Keith Lee, which is not important. But at the same time, Chad Johnson's not going to wake up every day worrying about what Keith Lee is doing next. What kind of food review Keith Lee is going to do next. That's not Chad Johnson's not worried about that. So stop trying to make Chad Johnson be worried about what he said to Keith Lee. He already corrected himself. So stop with all this drama and allow both of these men to stay in their lanes. Chad Johnson is back in his lane now. He stepped out of his lane and he spoke about someone he did not know, and he made an assumption that was incorrect. He corrected himself. Y'all should be acknowledging him. Y'all need to be making videos now saying, you know what? Respect to Chad Johnson for being a man and correcting himself. But don't keep dragging him and trying to tear him down. You know, y'all too emotional in y'all feelings when y'all do that. So be respectful to Keith Lee, be respectful to Chad Johnson, and y'all stay in y'all lane.